Call the meeting to order and start with a salute to the flag. And Laura, when you're ready, roll call, please.
Commissioner Scavdall,
Here.
just a moment. Commissioner Levy is absent. Commissioner Mulder,
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Here.
Commissioner West is absent. Commissioner Curriasi is absent. Commissioner McFarland,
Here.
thank you.
Thank you. And Director Ford, I think we have some agenda modifications this evening.
Yes, Chair, we do. So the first agenda modification I would like to call your attention to is going to be item number 4 on the consent calendar. This is the Daniels Coastal Development Permit and Special Permit and Variance. And we have a letter received late this afternoon from the applicant requesting a continuance. It's my understanding that the neighbors are also in agreement with this continuance. The continuance would be to November 6th, 2025. So you could do it now, or you can do it when you remove things from the consent calendar. Just remove that and recognize that we're going to continue that to November 6th.
Okay.
And then the second item is the Alves residential parcel map. As the staff report, I believe, points out, the applicant is now in agreement with all of Public Works recommendations. That removes any issue with this. And so as part of the consent calendar, if you wanted to move item F5 onto the consent calendar, that would be appropriate. There are no issues here, and it is just a minor parcel map.
Okay, thank you.
Then there are some new letters on the dais tonight. One is related to the U-Haul signage in McKinleyville. One is related to the Walford zone reclassification.
Okay, thank you, Director Ford. At this time, I will take public comment for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. So if anybody here or online would like to address the commission on something that's not going to be on tonight's agenda, but is within the commission's jurisdiction, you would have 3 minutes to do so. And if you're in the room, please approach the podium if you'd like to speak. And if you're online, please raise your hand by pressing *9. I don't see anybody in the room approaching the podium, and I don't see any hands raised online. So I'm going to close public comment on non-agenda items and move to the consent agenda. And before I go through all the consent items, can I have a motion from Commissioner to continue the Daniels Coastal Development Permit to November 6th?
I'll make a motion to continue item 4 on the consent calendar to November 6, 2025.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second, and I'll just ask if anybody wants to comment or has any concerns about moving that to November 6th. I see a hand up online. Caller 3122. Do you have a question or a comment regarding the Daniels Coastal Development Permit continuance. I'm not going to take comments on anything other than the continuance unless you can't be here November 6th. Caller 3122, you have your hand up, press star 6 to unmute your phone. I don't know. Caller 3122, you have your hand raised. I don't know if it's for this agenda item or for something else, but I need you to unmute your phone so I can understand why your hand's raised. They dropped off.
Yep, that caller just dropped off.
Okay. I have a motion and a second on continuing the Daniels Coastal Development Permit to our meeting in November 6th. We can just have a voice vote on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Matter is continued to November 6th. I'll go through the balance of the consent items. I will read the title of each item. I will ask the commissioners if they have any questions or comments on this item, and if they do, we'll pull it for discussion later. I will also check with the members of the audience. If you're here for an item that's on consent calendar and you want to address the commission on that item, we will pull it and hear it later on this evening. The first item is the Satterley General Plan Amendment, Zone Reclassification and Agricultural Preserve. Commissioners, all good? Checking in the room. I don't see any hands raised in the room. I don't see any hands online, so that stays on consent. Item 2, French Lot Line Adjustment, Zone Reclassification, and Class B Agriculture Preserve in the Edwardsburg area. Commissioners? And checking in the room, I see no hands in the room, and I see no hands online, so that will stay on consent. Item 3, Holiday Minor Subdivision in the McKinleyville area. Commissioners? And I'm checking in the room. I see no hands. I see no hands raised online. That will stay on consent. Item 4, we've continued, and we're going to, item 5 is Matthew Daisy Conditional Use Permit and Special Permit in the Dinsmore area. Checking with the commissioners. In the room, I see no hands raised, and I don't see any hands online, so that will remain on consent. And now I'm going to pull up item 6, the Alves Residential Subdivision, Parcel Map Subdivision, and Coastal Development Permit, with the understanding that the applicant is agreeing to staff's recommendations. So, commissioners, any discussion? Seeing none. Any in the audience? I don't see any hands raised in the audience or any online, so that will stay on consent. Or move on to consent. So, commissioners, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve consent items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, which 6 was formerly F5.
I have a motion from Commissioner Moldar.
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Go with a voice vote. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. We will now move to old business. The first item up on old business is U-Haul building signage and conditional use permit modifications. And I will, Director Ford, we have a staff report and an update on this.
This was continued. We can give a brief presentation if you would like, but this was continued because the commission was deadlocked previously.
My only concern is if you have any new information from our last meeting.
Yep.
I think we need an update on that new information.
We will present that tonight.
And since you are presenting new information, I will reopen public comment after the staff report.
Hello, my name is Alice Fasterling, and I'm the assigned planner for the U-Haul Building Signage Project. This project has been before your commission twice, originally at the August 7th meeting and then at the September 4th meeting. At the August 7th meeting, wider noticing of the project was requested to ensure the public and the applicant or an agent was able to comment. At the September 4th meeting, there was a split 2-2 vote among commissioners, and a decision was unable to be made. To date, staff have received 2 voicemails and 19 emails or letters regarding this project. Both voicemails and 2 emails or letters were in support of the project or business. 17 letters were generally opposed due to visual concerns, type of business, and false advertising, and 1 was an informational request clarifying that tree removal was not part of the project. I would like to share the mocked-up images with signs again to reorient the commission to the proposal. This is the image of the U-Haul South, formerly Kmart building, which has 12 signs proposed along the approximately 450-foot facade, 5 of which are directional in nature. Also a reminder, they did remove 2 large balcony signs from their proposal due to staff's concerns with visual impacts prior to the initial hearing. This is the mock-up of the U-Haul North, formerly Ray's Market, which has 4 new signs proposed along the approximately 250-foot facade. And this is the U-Haul North Side mock-up. In response to the commission and the public's concerns, the applicant has revised the proposal and is removing the images from this side along School Road and is only requesting the 5-foot by 9-foot backlit illuminated sign. As this is the only sign on this 175-foot facade and the sign is under 100 square feet, this sign would only require a building permit. All other signs originally proposed are still requested. And then here is a view of the street view from School Road to show the elevation and vegetation at the closest point to the public right-of-way. Again, vegetation removal is not part of this project. And I am happy to go through my presentation from the September 4th hearing, again, which includes more specific information regarding the signs, or we're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners need to see the full staff report again? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Muldaur?
Just through the chair, clarification. So what I heard in your updated staff report is almost all the signs except for that one along School Road are removed now. And that 1 sign technically only needs a building permit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
But, sorry, with the clarification that there was still the additional signage being added to what was the Kmart stretch. That was like slide number 2 or 3.
Yeah, all the other signs are all still proposed. There were 2 that were removed before we came here that first time, but all of the other signs are proposed still.
So the only significant sign removal is on School Road, everything but the upper left-hand corner sign,
Correct.
which would be, according to the picture, blocked by 3 trees. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Chair, if I could.
Yes, Director Ford.
Should be the commission's practice to ask for ex partes going into a public hearing.
Okay. So do any commissioners need to disclose any ex parte discussions, meetings, visits? Okay, thank you. I did have a couple of kind of clarifying questions. The project has, or the development has a master sign plan,
Correct.
and the signage complies with the master signage plan for that retail shopping center?
With a modification, yes, I guess it does comply.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little tricky to explain, I guess. The master sign plan for the shopping center says that signs that are typical for that business on the main tenant buildings are permittable as long as they are also permittable by the county. So it doesn't necessarily set a limit. And so that essentially ties it back to the county's sign ordinance, which the new sign ordinance says they need a conditional use permit.
And the new sign ordinance has been approved by the Board of Supervisors?
Correct.
Okay, so that was my question, because typically our ordinances don't reach back, and I was concerned that we might be setting a precedent for all the other master sign plans that might exist around the county. But this is the other way around. What you're saying is the master sign plan itself identifies the need for county approval.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. So I will open the public hearing. If anybody from the public or the applicant would like to address the commission, since we have some new information, I will open the public hearing. Keep in mind, we did hear all the comments the first 2 times around, and we have all the comment letters. But if anybody wants to address the commission, now's the time to do so. Please approach the podium, and I'll take the in the room first, and then we'll go to the online members. Are you the applicant or member of the public?
No, I'm a member of the public.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, my name is Charles Perkins. I'm a McKinleyville resident. And I'm here to say that McKinleyville residents overwhelmingly oppose new signs for U-Haul. The new sign standard notwithstanding, not one person I've spoke with approves of this. My daughter sampled Facebook. She found 4 comments in support of U-Haul with hundreds opposing them. There was a comment in your September meeting to disregard social media comments, but that's how young people communicate. You cannot ignore that. My generation goes to meetings, their generation goes to Facebook and Instagram. Please listen to them. It's overwhelmingly clear that McKinleyville strongly opposes U-Haul's request. McKinleyville is a residential community, while from my view, U-Haul is in fact an industrial scale facility, which for me should not even be permitted in McKinleyville. And the photos I just saw are not reality at all. There's, you're showing a few cars. There's a parking lot full of vehicles there. U-Haul knows that it's an industrial scale facility. The U-Haul here in Eureka, just up the street, is in fact in an industrial zone, and it's smaller. In McKinleyville, they're in the middle of 3 residential neighborhoods with more new homes in construction right now on School Road, yet they ignore that and ask to expand signage. U-Haul is already the most highly visible business on Central Avenue. And I say that because their footprint is greater than most big box stores and far exceeds any need by McKinleyville residents. I made a rough count, and I found 40 storage containers, 27 trucks, 37 trailers parked in their parking lot, all highly visible from Central Avenue and School Road. Not one person I've spoken with approves of that. And to be honest, with 100+ orange striped vehicles all across their parking lot, they don't need any signs at all. Everyone can see it. As a former small business owner and a corporate manager, I understand the need for job creation. Saying no to 3,000 square foot of signage is not saying no to business. McKinleyville needs businesses to serve the local community and create meaningful jobs for the community. A self-service storage facility will not create significant number of jobs, and more signs is not going to change that fact. The U-Haul manager, which I'm guessing that's you, was quoted in the last meeting as saying that the signs make it easier for out-of-town people to find them. And I would say that any one of 20 mapping programs would actually work better than that.
I need you to wrap up.
This is not about creating jobs in McKinleyville. It's about U-Haul expansion, which from my view would actually deter new families from coming to McKinleyville and could in fact limit job growth. The town plan envisions an environment where people of all ages can work and play with human scale development. I don't believe U-Haul is human scale development. So to conclude, U-Haul signage is not appropriate for our residential community. Additional signs will not create a significant number of jobs in McKinleyville, and McKinley residents overwhelmingly oppose U-Haul's request.
Thank you.
So please deny their request. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the online commenters, is anybody else in the room that would like to address the commission? Yes, sir.
So,
Could you-
my
you-
name's Dale, I'm the manager.
Yes, you have up to 10 minutes.
Okay, so on the signs and all that, most of them are directional signage. Only about like 6 are like where they have letters and stuff. It's our address that we're trying to get on there. And the storage doors, we wouldn't even, if we painted on them, we wouldn't even need a permit. All what I'm just trying to say is, like, I don't know, but we definitely need them.
Okay, thank you. I have a caller online at 8336. It looks like they're unmuted. Oh, now I'm showing them. There you go.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So when I found out about the U-Haul signage, my immediate, thought was, oh no, because I've lived here since 2005, and we've been recently in the last few years working on the McKinleyville town plan meticulously, many meetings trying to make a lovely town, trying to get, a place where we all want to live and shop, and everyone keeps saying, yeah, we need more to invite people shopping. But the idea of creating this big sign for U-Haul is it creates, like the gentleman before me said, this industrial feeling, like a huge parking lot or a huge used car parking lot. It's just not the kind of feeling we want in a small town, McKinleyville residential section. We look at U-Haul, and everyone has used this U-Haul. We've all moved or had to have storage for our stuff. And if anyone has ever had to use U-Haul, it's like no one wants to use U-Haul or any moving thing because it's a chore. You think about moving, it's packing, it's storing, it's a chore. We all want to do a million things other than move. And so having these huge signs like blazing from the north side and the east side, U-Haul, it just sends this message of chore. And it's a one-time shopper. It's not, I've used U-Haul. We all know the address. If you're not driving and texting, you have your eyes open. You could see U-Haul because the parking lot is a sea of trucks, all with the signage, U-Haul. We all know where U-Haul is. Why have another big sign? If the, wording was joy or love or kindness or compassion, yes, a huge sign would be wonderful in bright lights. But no, it's U-Haul. It's a chore. It's just depressing. So I don't like the visual impact, the connotation of U-Haul blaring at us. We all know where it is. We don't need to create more signage to have people figure out, even if they're from out of town. You know what to look for. You look for, the U-Haul trucks. Everyone knows this. And so maybe they're hurting for business. They're concerned. I appreciate that. Business is hard. But, getting new signage is not going to increase that. I've used U-Haul there at McKinleyville, and everyone's been really nice and sweet and helpful. I will use it again and again, if I have to. That's not a problem. But I don't think signage, I drive School Road all the time at Central, and I really don't want, like the big city feel of U-Haul glaring down at me.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, is anybody else in the room or online? I do not see any more hands. I'm going to close public comment on this and bring it back to the commissioners.
I haven't changed my mind, so in fact, it's even more made up because more people have come out. And I'm not anti-business. It was a shopping center. It's no longer much of a shopping center. It did have, I would say, probably over 100 people working there before. Now, I don't know how many work in U-Haul, but I haven't seen an option that says this is what it would have to look like if we stayed within the sign ordinance, and this is how we need to deviate because people can't find the doors. So I think that they can live within the ordinance that we passed, and that's going to be my vote.
I'll just say, as a McKinleyville resident that drives past that every day, I agree with the signage would certainly change the feel of the community, but I also feel like to not listen to the overwhelming output from the community would be disingenuous, both as a McKinleyville resident and a greater Humboldt County resident. And so, I think we did our due diligence by continuing this item multiple times now to really let the community have their say. And so I have to side with Commissioner O'Neill at this point.
So Director Ford, a question for you, a couple of maybe. I guess we can deny, the applicant has applied to us for signs on their building. If we just deny, I guess that sends them back to the drawing board to come back to us with something else, or?
Well, if you denied it this evening, they could go back and redesign, or they could appeal to the board.
Okay. So we could deny. It's hard to try to redesign applicant's sign. I guess we could give them some criteria. Some are saying comply with the sign ordinance. I'm just trying to find a way, if there's, some way we could have a meeting of the minds to have U-Haul have some signs on their building. So can we approve part of it? Like say we're willing to approve these signs?
You can certainly condition it and modify the request and approve certain signs.
So can you put the visual back up of the main building? I think we got the sign, they proposed one building sign on the side street, School Street, I think it is.
Right.
Okay. So I think, and they don't need planning commission for that sign, so, but the one on the face of the building.
So they've already removed some of the doors. Obviously, over in the middle, or at the far right of the screen, they still have not removed those doors. That is signage. The other thing that you could conceivably do is, could we go back to that image, please? Is condition like the directional signage there to be smaller and to not extend above the top of the parapet, so that it would be more in keeping with the building, perhaps.
Well, so below the sign that says drive-in storage, there's 3 doors. Are those doors or signs?
Those are actual doors.
Okay. So below the sign, the orange signs that have been removed, are those doors or signs?
That is an overhang there.
Okay, so those are just shadows back.
Yeah.
Got it. The signs on the left, the orange signs are those all signs?
Yes.
Everything that's orange there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to throw this out there. Would the commissioners consider approving the signs without the orange doors on the side of the building?
I would just like to know what would it take to get them within the ordinance with the existing, what they've got going on here.
They are essentially within the ordinance right now, the existing signs. So they're limited to 100 square feet per facade. So the only new sign that they would propose, let's just say you're limited to what the ordinance says and not issue a conditional use permit. They would be limited to what they have right now with the addition of a 100 square foot sign on the north side on School Road, and that would be it.
If they're already within the ordinance, why are they even here? Don't they get approved outside of here?
the sign ordinance states that you can request a conditional use permit to exceed those prescriptive standards. And so that's why we're here.
But I thought, my question was, what would it take to get them within the ordinance? And I thought the answer was there already are, but maybe I misunderstood.
So there's two things at work here. There is an existing kind of a master sign plan. They called it something different for this. But in that particular case, one of the things we did is looked at where signage can be approved. And can we go and look at the screen again? So in this particular case, that master sign plan allows signage to be where that U-Haul 24/7 self-storage is. That's where the signage is allowed to be.
And that's it? So everything other than that is outside of the ordinance?
That's outside of the existing master sign plan, yes.
Okay.
So, again, so that's why I was proposing, it sounds like, and we're hearing in some of the comment letters, people are confused between the self-storage and the drive-in storage. I don't know, the doors just seem like sort of some sort of graphic addition and maybe, more like advertising versus signage. So I'm willing to consider approving the signs as long as we remove the doors. And I'm making that proposal in the spirit of trying to get this to move forward.
I would be amenable to that, so that would be removing the two orange signs with the black circles say removed, also removing the orange that you see to the left of the screen, and then conditioning the drive-in storage sign and the self-storage sign to be smaller and a little more in line with the text that you see saying 24/7 self-storage. So I understand businesses need the directional signage, but I just don't think you need to be able to see that from the other side of Central Avenue. I think within the parking lot is fine.
I could support that.
And then my recommendation on that would just be that we don't come up with arbitrary sizes tonight, like on the diocese, but to maybe send that back to staff recommendation so that they can work out the most appropriate size.
I agree that, when it says drive-in storage, if you're already up there looking for something, you're gonna see it. If it doesn't have to be that big. That's big enough to see it from Central. And if you turn in there and you're gonna plan on going there, you don't need a sign that exceeds the roof and that's that huge. People go to Costco, they figure out how to get in, how to get to the tire shop and all that, and they just have one sign on their building. So, yeah, those are over-the-top directional signs. And then the other one says what? Service parts? I can't read.
Storage place, I believe. Commissioner Muldar?
So through the chair, a couple questions. I heard comments. So a lot of the comments I read, some of them actually was more School Road as an issue, and I see that the applicant changed that, so, or mitigated that concern that the public had. I heard comments about it being an industrial zone. What is the technical zoning of that large? I think it's like 15 acres, but maybe I can't remember exactly from the original.
It's
staff
C2.
report. C2, so commercial.
Yep.
Okay. And then we also heard comments about car lots. I haven't been to McKinleyville in a minute, but about a quarter mile up the road, if you head north, there's car lots on both sides of Central. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last question is this building right here. It's been a while since I've been up to McKinleyville. That's probably almost 200 feet off the road, just thinking, off the public right of way, just shooting from the hip. Maybe that's the wrong term.
From Central, yes.
Yes.
Not necessarily from school.
From school. That's why this is from Central viewpoint though, correct?
Yeah.
So
From Central?
we're
This is-
being,
Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
500 feet from Central, actually.
that building is 500 feet from Central Avenue. So we're being asked to ask someone that's 500 feet from the public right of way, how they design their building. I just want to make sure we're saying this correctly, that someone on private property, 500 feet from a public right-of-way, we're asking them what to do with their signs. I'll leave it at that.
I have something to say to that. There is a sign on Central Avenue that has all the names of the different businesses that are in there. So when you're driving by, you can see what it is. So you don't have to go all the way to the building to find it.
Yeah, and we make permits all the time with building codes and, you know, visual impacts regardless of distance from public right-of-way, so I'm not sure, you know, and we're not saying they can't have it, we're just saying a reduction to make it more visibly appealable and work with the community makes sense.
I hear everyone's concerns. I look at things from a different perspective, and I just simply agree to disagree.
And I totally appreciate your perspective. I'm trying to not have to have Utah come back one more time, so I'm looking for something we can do here.
No,
So-
I understand you, and then I'm looking at that, so technically if you put all orange roll-up functional doors along that whole building, functional, like we heard at our last public hearing, when I asked questions of the staff, as long as it's a functional door, it could be pink, it could be yellow, it could be orange, it could be any color, because it's functional, so.
I'm just proposing that they not come to us calling those signs. So, Commissioner McFarland, would you like to structure your comments into some sort of a motion?
Okay, I would make a motion to approve item 1 on the old business calendar, which is the U-Haul building signage conditional use permit, with the caveat that all orange fake door signs that face school are removed, and the directional signage is reduced to a size that staff will work out in the future that is more, shooting from the hip here, that is more consistent with the 24/7 lettering and size.
I have a motion from Mr. McFarland. Do I have a second? I'll second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Just that they had already agreed to remove the doors on that side. I don't, you weren't here last meeting.
No, the ones in the image that was pulled up.
I think the confusion here is Commissioner McFarland said facing school. I think you meant facing central.
Facing center, yes, sorry, thank you for that catch.
They'd already removed the ones.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I meant those ones.
All of these. So Commissioner O'Neill, just to make sure you understand the picture on the wall, all the orange doors will be removed, not just the two in the black circle, but the others on the left-hand side as well.
And then they're gonna reduce the other drive-in storage and.
To be in scale with the 24/7 self-storage sign,
Okay. Got it.
okay? I'm going to call for a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Scavdo,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulder,
I say no.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes,
Commissioner McFarland.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And I think we did accomplish our goal of engaging the community in this dialogue, so,
Can I clarify something?
yes.
So if the applicant didn't like this decision, they could still appeal to the Board of
Yes,
Supervisors?
they can. Okay,
Should appeal, would that appear in next month's agenda?
that would appear on the Board of Supervisors' agenda whenever, if they file an appeal. And I think they have a certain time frame to do that. Is that,
They have 10 days to do that.
so within 10 days? Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, I have to recuse on this for actual potential bias, so my colleague is going to come step in.
Okay, thank you. So under old business, item 2, we're going to move to the Walford Zone reclassification and general plan amendment in Eureka. We had a staff report at our last meeting. We did not take public comment yet. So, Commissioners, I'm going to ask you, do we need to see the staff report or maybe a brief staff report? I think a brief staff report would just help refresh everyone and perhaps the public that's here to speak on this. So, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Cliff Johnson. I will be presenting this project, and I'm just going to wait for the screen to come up, and I'll give just a brief kind of revisit of the project in front of us. So the site is shown right here off of Harris, just south of Harris and west of Redwood Acres. A lot of people know this as being very close to the Hospice of Humboldt property. The property consists of 2 assessor parcels. It's actually 1 legal parcel that's roughly 11 acres in size. Most of it is gulch area that is undevelopable. And what this project consists of is a rezone application and a general plan amendment. So the rezone application would remove a Q-zone section, a Q-zone limitation on the property. The property is currently zoned R4, which generally allows for a lot of medical and office uses and multifamily development. And the Q zone that was established on this property when the Eureka Community Plan was first adopted limited the use of the property, as you see here, only to medical, dental, and other health-related offices, and no other uses were permitted. So this would remove that restriction. The general plan amendment seeks to strike through a section of the Eureka Community Plan that is basically the same thing. It's just found in the Eureka Community Plan to remove that restriction that only allows professional office use. So what this would do, and what you're looking at here on this slide, is the principally permitted uses in the R4 zoning district, which is what the zone is for that property right now. So if those restrictions were removed, these are the uses that would be permitted. There is no proposal currently in front of us to develop the property, and what this would do would presumably allow them to build residential units or the existing, build out the medical, dental, and office space, or some combination of the above. And so that is what is in front of you. You've had a lot of public comments that have been submitted, generally speaking about the change in the character of the community and also raising concerns about the condition of the property right now. There is an active code enforcement action on the property due to unpermitted storage structures and unpermitted construction and I guess we'll just call it construction material. And they have been given until, through our code enforcement unit, until the beginning to middle of November to remove those from the property. And with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. I can answer any questions you have.
Any commissioners, any questions of staff at this time? I have just one question for you. I think you did a mitigated neg deck, and to do that, you had to make some assumptions as to what might be constructed there, and you took, as I understand it, kind of the most conservative scenario under the current, under the planning and zoning ordinances for the maximum build out of that parcel, whether it be medical or residential. Is that correct?
So the environmental analysis that was done considered basically the baseline of what could be built right now without any sort of discretionary permit, and that would be to build out the property with medical office.
Correct.
So there's a lot more. They could go up to 4 stories in height. They could expand that existing building significantly, and considering what they could do there was looked at as the baseline. So in doing that analysis, the county looked at what a maximum build-out scenario for residential might look like. And the traffic and various impact areas were all generally less than what the maximum build-out of the site as medical could be.
Right.
And so,
Okay, but there is actually no proposed development at this time.
correct, there is no
Okay.
proposed development at this time.
And although you analyzed it for potential multifamily dwellings, could it be developed into single-family dwellings, or would it have to be multifamily on this parcel?
I believe that would mostly have to be multifamily.
Okay.
Some combination of that.
Yeah.
Single-family wouldn't be permitted. So just to expand on that, really the maximum build-out that was identified as really being feasible there was 105 units
Yeah.
of multifamily units.
A multifamily? Okay, thank you. Any other
And-
commissioners?
I know most people think like a large apartment building when they think multifamily, but technically would a series of duplexes also count?
Yes, that could be permitted
Okay.
there. And I'll say, there's nothing that's going to require them to build out to that maximum amount. Like I said previously, there could also be a combination of uses that could be built on the site.
Commissioner Muldar?
Through the chair, I just found my notes from, it was actually 9/4, it looks like, or maybe I wrote the wrong date. I had a question here. I think I asked this already, but remember in our comment letters received, loss of open space was a concern. I just wanted to clarify that this is technically private property, so that's not like there's not a public right-of-way or public park use that's allowed on this property. It's technically private property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a
But-
question.
Yes, Commissioner O'Neill?
You mentioned there's code enforcement on this parcel. Has there been efforts by the owner to comply with cleaning it up?
The owner, or at least the owner's representative, has reached out to the code enforcement unit and agreed to basically abate the property, clean up the site within 60 days of receiving the notice to abate. And so that 60-day window will end, I don't have the exact date, but I believe it's sometime in the beginning to middle of November. So they have agreed, at least verbally, to our code enforcement team to clean up the site by then. If they do not, they are subject to significant fines and penalties.
Commissioner Muldar?
Just, I'm going back to my notes. What I have for it, and I just want to be clarified if I had incorrect notes, it was at the end of the meeting. The majority of the code enforcement was unpermitted storage containers that were, some of them may be in the right-of-way or something like that, or some sort of easement possibly.
I don't believe any of them are in the easement. I think they're all on the property, but the majority, there's roughly 15 to maybe 17 storage containers that are unpermitted. There is a large collection of tile and other sort of construction equipment, as well as some construction vehicle type things, basically equipment to use for construction that is sitting there that has been inoperable at this point.
Okay. But majority of it is storage containers. I just am trying to make sure I wrote my notes down right.
Correct, that's the majority of it, yes.
Thank you very much.
And then I have one more question, to kind of follow on to Commissioner Muldar's question about the open space. There is a fairly significant portion of this property, if not the majority, that's not developable, that will remain, right, in kind of the Gulch area.
Yeah, so the property is roughly 11 acres. Maybe about 3.5 of that is developable. The remaining portion would not be able to be developed. It is a gulch area, and there are some streamside areas in there that, so all that area would be off limits to develop and must
Yeah,
remain.
so it
open
remains
space.
private, but not built, undevelopable. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions of staff before I open public hearing? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing and offer the applicant first, or their representative, first opportunity to speak. And you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Chair, and through the Chair, Commissioners and staff. My name is Leah Nelson, and I'm a planner with North Point Consulting. Praj White and I are here tonight representing the applicant, and we'd love a chance to respond at the end to any questions that may come up if we don't cover them right now. We've been working on this project with the applicant for nearly 3 years. We first brought it forward in March of 2023 through a petition to the Board of Supervisors to submit this application. And throughout 2024, we completed technical studies, biological resources, wetland studies, and met with CDFW about the project and completed a full initial study and mitigated negative declaration, finding no significant impacts. And after tonight, even, we have to go to the Board of Supervisors to finalize the permit. So this has been a long process, and we're grateful to be here tonight. Quickly, I want to talk a little bit about what this project is and what it is not, just based on some of the public comments that I've seen. There's a little bit of confusion. The project would not change the principal zone or existing general plan land use designation in any way. It's already zoned apartment professional and already has a land use designation of residential medium density. Not proposing to change either of those. It would only remove the qualifying zone, which currently limits it to medical only. And although it does mention a general plan amendment, as Cliff said, that's only a text amendment to the Eureka Community Plan, not an actual amendment of the general plan. This project does not propose to ban any current medical uses of the site or remove them. Medical uses could still continue on if this were approved. And as you were just discussing, it's not an application for a 4-story apartment complex. There is no current plan to develop the site. Our goal is to allow for potential residential development to continue if a plan arises. As you were just discussing, no trees are proposed to be removed. The gulch part of the site could not be developed, and it also doesn't involve the open space field just to the west of the site that some comment letters from the prior meeting were referencing. Has nothing to do with that property. It's completely separate. And so what this project is basically a solution to rectify kind of an odd situation. You have a really developable site already zoned for residential multifamily uses in a county designated housing opportunity zone, already connected to utilities in close proximity to transit and shopping centers that could provide much needed infill housing. I don't know if anyone has seen the recent RENA numbers that might come out soon, but Humboldt County clearly really needs housing. And our goal with this project is to allow for the possibility of housing to be built, because right now not even one unit could be built on site, even though it's zoned for housing. So we're excited to be here tonight and bring this forward for a decision. And I'm going to hand it over to Praj to talk about a couple other things.
All right. Thank you, Leah. Good evening, commissioners. First, I just want to come off of what Leah mentioned. The surrounding zoning is C1 and the R4. Both sets of properties in the neighborhood are allowed to have maximum height of 45 feet. So there can be 4-story buildings throughout the R4 zone and the C1 zone. There's a little difference on the C1 commercial uses versus the R4, but the character and nature of that entire area allows 4-story buildings. As Leah mentioned, it is a prime location for housing, near transit, all the utilities, and kind of an odd situation that it was zoned R4 already. And I also wanted to touch in on the storage. This property is owned by Dr. Stokes, and he has, through the years, accumulated solar panels, quality tile, marble, and has a vision at some point whether this will become housing or medical. He has gathered some great materials. He has a few pieces of construction equipment. And a little history, there was a grading permit issued about 2 years ago, and we identified that the construction storage equipment could be on site with that grading permit. That grading permit is such expired. And we spoke with code enforcement about the concern of the storage containers, and we at North Point were working with the county to prepare a building permit application to be able to store the containers on site. And as the comments came in just ahead of this hearing, it was identified that really storing materials and construction materials is not appropriate when there's not a construction activity. And so instead of applying for that building permit to keep the storage containers on site, doctor agreed that we would remove all the storage containers. I believe that the exact date is November 5th that it has to be completed. And I've been working with the doctor and his staff and have efforts in place to be able to remove all of there's some tiles on the exterior of the property. There are many storage containers filled with valuable products that he tries to protect because of vandalism and other items. And there is a few pieces of equipment, a loader and a bobcat and a couple of small things that will all be removed within the timely fashion. I believe the staff has also assured that that will happen by having a condition of approval that says this project can't go before the Board of Supervisors and be approved until such time that all the storage containers and materials are removed. We, like I said, we're here to answer any questions, and we'd like the opportunity to rebuttal at the end of the time.
We'll reserve that time for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, if there's anybody else in the room that would like to speak about this project, please approach the podium. If there are several of you, just to help me out and kind of manage the time, if you could just line up behind the speaker a little bit, that'd be great. Thank you. And you, sir, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Ross Alt. I live at 2990 Cedar Lane, and I'm here to oppose the zone reclassification and general plan text amendment at 3200 Walford Avenue because the environmental impact report does not comply with CEQA, and the conditions of approval do not address the blight maintained on the property. First, CEQA requires that the existing property use be compared to the proposed use. The circulation for the element for the proposed use uses, or for the standard use, uses some imaginary 100-bed medical facility as a comparison standard. It then compares this imaginary use to a 105-unit apartment project with a ridiculously low traffic count of almost 1.5 vehicle trips per apartment per day. This must assume few of the apartment occupants have jobs they drive to, or the count would be 2 trips per employed occupant per apartment per day. That alone is more traffic than the circulation element projects. The circulation element fails to account for visiting friends or the occupant's recreational travels. It fails to consider deliveries like the mail, UPS, FedEx, Amazon. It fails to consider errands like trips to the store or the drugstore. What about pizza deliveries? What about DoorDash? The generally accepted estimate for a vehicle trips per day is 10 for a single-family residential unit. The industry accepted traffic estimate is higher for apartment buildings. Again, there is no mention of the current traffic flow from the clinic as required by CEQA. To my second point, which has somewhat been addressed, but I'm not going to change, the proposed conditions of approval only require the applicant to remove or permit the on-site shipping containers at his leisure. If he fails through code enforcement, it's still at his leisure. No mention is made of the construction materials, heavy equipment, logging debris, and other blight littering the property. I propose that removal of the equipment and debris be addressed in the conditions of approval. I also propose that all remediation requirements be completed by a specific date, as they've indicated they're willing to do. But I want that in writing. I propose that you, the Planning Commission, send the EIR back for revision to comply with CEQA and recirculate it for public comment. Finally, I propose the conditions of approval be amended per my suggestions to fully address the blight on the property and not be so open-ended. In closing, I believe it's only fair that you make your decision based on the valid, fact-based document and not the sales brochure that's before you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh.
please.
Hi, my name is Debbie Pierce. I live at 2950 Cedar Lane, so my fence actually backs up to that property. And hospice is on this side of it. Well, hospice, of course, has people going in, picking up people that have passed away and have to travel, and there's a roundabout right there for them to go. So if there was to be built apartment complexes, that would, like, there's kids running around, they would actually have to go past that, and so the ambulances would have to go past all of that. I think that's disrespect for the people that have passed away that are right there. It's supposed to be quiet for their last, where they're gonna be at their last moments. Also, there has been logging back there, so there has been trees taken out. A lot of the storage units, there's been homeless people sleeping in the storage units. I walk back there with my dog all the time, and they have broken into those buildings. They have been sleeping in those buildings. None of that has ever been taken care of the whole time he has owned it. There's homeless people that sleep there's a wooded area. A lot of the homeless people sleep over there, which is part of where he owns as well. I just think the disrespect for the people that are passing away and having to go through there, and now hospice has 12 beds, so I can see the ambulances going in and going out, and there's probably 4 ambulances a day going out, in and out of that area, and it's just a roundabout, so there's really no street for them to be able to go through. So it's just the ambulances going in, and it's a roundabout and going. So there's also Planned Parenthood on the other side of it. So there's really and there's only one way into hospice. That's the only way into hospice. There's no 2 ways. So personally, I think it's disrespectful, and I don't think that this should actually go through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Markey. I am a retired surgical nurse. I am here in support of Dr. Stokes' project. This has been in the planning stages for quite some time. These projects of this magnitude take time. The storage containers are temporary. What he is proposing with his vision is more medical care. And as I understand it, the housing that is part of this project envisioned is hopefully going to be for traveling medical staff, doctors, medical aides, assistants, etc. Dr. Stokes and his wife have been providing quality medical care for almost 50 years in this community. They are invested in this community. They believe in this community. And just based on their years of service, how can you doubt their dedication to this area? They are proposing a rather large project. By the way, Henderson Center has a few unfinished areas as it stands. There are some holes yet to be filled in Henderson Center. What else is going to be done with this property? It has been blight ever since the church vacated that property. He is proposing to do something quite positive with this area. No disrespect to the immediate neighbors. I don't live in the immediate neighborhood, but I do live near Henderson Center. But the bottom line is, my feeling is we need more medical care. He's trying to provide it. I'm not privy to all of the details of his project. I've been retired for some time now. I am just speaking out in support of this project. It's going to require patience, and he still has a lot of stuff to do. I'm just asking support of the city to help him in this endeavor, which is only going to help this city and the citizens of this city. By golly, we do need more medical care than less. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else in the room right now that's ready or wants to speak. I don't see any hands online. Okay, I will ask the applicant if they would like to come back and address any of the comments that have been made. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, my name is Praj White, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of the things that were brought up. There was a 3-acre conversion completed on the property a few years back, and that was what there are a little bit of wood chips and a few stumps stored on site from the past. In general, the 3-acre conversion had to address the vagrants and vandalism. The property owner works with folks on a regular basis and has to pay and haul out trash and debris throughout the property all the time. So the conversion helped open up areas and allow that to be seen and minimize it. And along the way, there's going to be an intended security fence put up to help deal with that problem coming into the property. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Hi. Sure, I just wanted to address the comment made about trips per day and the conceptual design scenarios that were used for the CEQA analysis. Essentially, as Cliff mentioned in the presentation, to determine the impact of a proposed principally permitted use, or one that could be allowed if this went through, compared with an existing principally permitted use, we, in discussion with the county, came up with these 2 maximum sort of highest intensity design scenarios that reflect those 2 options, and so that's what's analyzed in CEQA. And the residential design scenario that was mentioned actually had a proposed trip count of 632 trips per day. So I don't think I'm not sure where the 1 point something number came from, but it was based on 4 trips per parking space per day. And again, that's not proposed. That was to just show that impacts from potentially allowing residential development to be principally permitted on site would not be greater than impacts that are currently allowed. And I think that was all, unless you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Moldar.
Through the chair to the applicant's agent, the 3-acre conversion, do you know when that was, this might be for Praj, when that was completed, and more importantly, when it was signed off by CAL FIRE?
It's a tough question on my memory. I believe that it was somewhere between 18 and 24 months ago that it was signed off by CAL FIRE. And I was involved in the call for the final inspection, and I'm aware that CAL FIRE accepted the work and signed off and finalized it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, I will close the public hearing and bring this matter back to the commission. And before we go, staff, I'll just ask if staff has any response to comments made so far.
There are a few, and to answer through the chair, Commissioner Mulder's question, the last CAL FIRE 3-acre conversion submittal was January of 2024. And the applicant mentioned this already, but I did want to comment and reiterate that the CEQA document did analyze 632 trips per day, which they were using based on the number of possible parking spaces, but that works out to be 6 trips per proposed residential unit. And again, they're not proposed, that's just being considered for the analysis. CEQA does require a discussion of the existing environmental baseline, which is addressed. That is, the existing uses are discussed in the CEQA document. For the analysis, what we're looking at here is the potential impacts in the change of uses that would be permitted. And so what's there right now is not what could be built with simply a building permit. That site can support a significant amount of more office and medical. And so for the analysis, we looked at what could be potentially developed on that site without any additional zoning changes, and compared that to what the changes could be with their requested zoning change.
Correct. I understand that. I took the applicant's comments to say we didn't address what I'll call the no project alternative, but the no project alternative is basically with the Q zone in place, which is the medical facility that you analyzed, right?
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct. So essentially, if this rezone application and general plan amendment is denied and does not go forward, they could massively expand that site.
Right.
With just a building permit.
Right. So I
No
understand that. So
offices.
that was the basis. The base case is with the Q zone, and the apartment unit analysis is without the Q zone overlay. Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Those are the only things that I wanted to address.
I just wanted to
Commissioner O'Neill?
disclose that 30 years ago, I did have Dr. Stokes as a doctor, so I don't know if that matters. But I did read somewhere that they need at least 50 new residences for medical staff to attract people. I don't know if apartments are, the type of housing they need. Is there any way you can't limit it to say this is just medical housing, can you?
Yeah, typically not.
I didn't think so. And if we did move this forward, I would like to include some sort of mitigation measures for hospice to address some of these issues that were brought up today. I don't know what those might be, but I'm sure you could think of after you would see a plan. And also that there would be adequate fencing behind the building where there's residences. I tended to agree when I first looked at the comments about if you can't take care of the property now, what's going to happen if you put 100, I don't know how many units it was proposed on there. There are some pictures attached to the comment letter that kind of shows, it's not being brushed, there's a lot of debris, and, I think it could have been better taken care of. If there is a vacant property, it tends to get worse with vagrancy and what have you, and homeless people, but you're contributing to it when you don't take care of the property, you don't mow it, you don't, you just let stuff build up there, so that's not a very good sign. And my first thought was, they should have cleaned it up before they ever came here. But I do agree we need new residents for medical. I don't know about apartment buildings. I don't know if that's what we're seeking, but those are just my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Muldar?
So I'm seeing these pictures. My apologies, they are on the dais. I didn't see these. Vegetation's up, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is out of the coastal zone, correct, or incorrect?
That is correct.
So in theory, someone could possibly get just throw it out there, like a 10% dead and dying, and then vegetation management strip this whole parcel, utilizing that, looks like a bulldozer there. Then there'd be no weeds, and I don't know, that's just a way that someone can manage weeds and vegetation I've seen through the Forestry Practices Act. Just throwing that out there.
Can I just clarify, so tonight we're only approving, or we're only considering the rezoning. So the comments about this is going to be medical housing or it's not, those are all potentially hypothetical because we don't have a building plan. So it could be medical housing or it could be something completely different.
That is correct. So, and to clarify, what you're being asked to do today is to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, right? But what this would do, if it is approved by the board as requested, would allow for them to do various things that would otherwise be allowed in that zone with simply a building permit. So those various things could potentially come forward without any future discretionary action. But there is nothing that is currently proposed.
And correct, which could include a transfer of ownership of the property, for example, to anybody that might want to develop it in the future. And we're not actually here, while there is an abatement order, it sounds like, on the parcel, that's not before us, although you have conditioned the final approval by the Board of Supervisors on this abatement action, or how?
That's a little squirrely.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand,
You
yeah.
can't really, you can't condition a
Yeah.
rezone. So what we've tried to do is have the planning commission make, as part of their action, the recommendation that this not be acted on by the board until such a time as the property is cleaned up.
Which is coming up. I mean, somebody said November 5th. So even if let's say we were to approve this and it had to go to the Board of Supervisors, it would seem to me that it'd be staff that's doing that scheduling would figure out how to schedule that for a Board of Supervisors meeting that might happen to fall after November 5th. And members of the public would be notified and certainly would have the opportunity to speak at that Board of Supervisors meeting if an active abatement order hadn't been satisfied before then, I would think. So, and then just kind of one other comment is, if I were looking for an area, if we as a planning commission were looking for areas to approve future housing in unincorporated parts of the county, areas close to transit and shopping where there's grocery stores and drug stores and coffee shops and hardware stores and medical facilities and food services would rank pretty high, in my opinion, for future housing. So that's a challenge that, that we face here is, and I know one of the comments, that letter said, well, we need transition areas between, the urban areas and the rural areas. And, this might be an area that starts to make some of that transition, but I don't think it's truly a transition area like we'd see, which would be perhaps residential estates or some other type of zoning that would provide more of that buffer from this type of future development. So you could probably see where I'm headed with these comments, but
I think in general, I agree with you. The location is prime. There still will be significant open space given the 3.5 acres is only developable of the 11. And then I think, like was mentioned, the owner could sell the property, the new developer could come in and something great could go in. I mean, I would suggest to the folks that commented with feelings towards hospice, maybe you want to speak to hospice and they can send a letter to the Board of Supervisors. I will say I live in McKinleyville, right near a long-term care facility, and I did have a loved one pass recently in that facility, and it's right on Heartwood. It's a busy area, and I didn't find it disrespectful. I thought she had a beautiful setup. So there are ways that the two needs can be managed, but I would encourage you, speak to hospice and they can speak to the Board of Supervisors, but at this point, I would be comfortable moving forward as proposed.
is that a motion?
It can be, so.
All right.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve item number 2, the Walford Zone Reclassification and General Permit Amendment, with the suggestion that it is not acted upon by the board until after the abatement order is addressed.
I would like to recommend that we include in there that staff work on mitigation measures to accommodate the fact that there is a hospice there. It could be an ingress, egress, fencing, and also the fence, that they ensure that there's fencing that separates the single-family residences that are behind it. Because if you do turn it into multiple apartments and there's lots of kids and all that, then you want to make sure that there's a separation.
I'm happy to add that to the motion.
So if again, you can't condition rezones.
Right.
So if you're interested in doing something like that, the way to structure it would be to recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve this with a Q zone to include those development limitations on the property.
Could we can't do it with a rezone, can we set a setback within the rezone?
Can you-
Can we set a building setback line?
You can recommend a building setback, sure. I mean, the Q zone can absolutely do that.
Oh, within another qualifying zone?
Yeah, you would just, instead of just removing the existing Q zone, it would be remove the existing Q zone and add a Q zone to add development criteria related to protecting hospice.
Yeah, and somewhat of the challenge of that is hospice is there today, but I don't know what their future plans are, where they might, locate, if that's a permanent home or not, or what. So, but if there are adjacent medical facilities or something like that, and you're having residential next door, can you just say that you want to have a 20-foot or setback from, side yard setback or something from between residential and medical or commercial facilities?
If you do the Q zone, you can.
If
yeah.
you do the Q zone. Okay. I'm not proposing that at this time. So,
Would that satisfy you, Commissioner O'Neill?
Well, it needs to be what John said, that you can make a recommendation, but we can't put it in the approval? Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, it would be part of your recommendation to the board, because what a zoning amendment requires is a recommendation from the planning commission. So you're making a recommendation here, and the recommendation would include the fact that you want to address the compatibility adjacent to hospice or between residential and medical office uses, and you want to create certain performance criteria.
That's what I'd like to add.
before we go there, I'd have to see the site plan again, because I think, as my recollection from the property is there's streets between this property and adjacent properties, and so as I think about it, it's sounds like a good idea, but I don't know that there's actually a common lot line between this parcel and.
Can we put the picture back?
I think Cliff's looking, that's what I was gonna ask too, because I'm like, wait a second, I'm trying to scratch my.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up though, Chair.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out how to solve the problem, but I don't understand fully what the problem is, so.
So this slide, you're looking at the subject property and hospice. I guess they do actually share a common property line, but it's over, if you could, this is, I believe, hospice right there. So there's this property in between, and there is a parking lot and drive down here that leads to this roundabout that then goes down to hospice. So it is separated.
Right.
The developable portion is definitely separated significantly from hospice.
So I don't think the issue was actually the adjacency of hospice, as I remember the applicant's comment. It was just that the ambulances and the people are going to be driving by there frequently. Right, there's one access point to hospice.
If you
Understood, thank you.
If you give me a minute, I can actually pull up a street view image there.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time conditioning something or asking for a Q zone overlay to put a fence alongside a public right of way.
No one's asking for a Q zone, right? Did we say that? We said recommendations?
No, we're trying to figure out how to address what your concern is, though, and the comment, and the hospice is not directly adjacent to this facility, so it's a drive-by.
That was one, I said mitigation measures. Sometimes those are
Right.
trees, sometimes they're fences. It would be up to staff to work with the property owner and hospice to ensure that concerns were addressed. And the other is if you're going to add a lot of apartment buildings and there's existing residents that live there, their kids sometimes, can walk in, areas that they don't need to go. So just ensuring there's adequate fencing to separate multifamily from single family.
Would you be okay with, instead of saying mitigation measures, if we make the recommendation that the board, through staff, work
Yeah.
with hospice
Right,
and
right.
let hospice
It
decide?
would always be staff, and we're out of the picture once
Yeah.
it's approved.
Okay.
It's just a recommendation, and I mean, if I lived there, it was my house, and they were building a 4-story
Mhm.
apartment building, you know, near my house, I'd at least want a fence. I mean, it's not gonna stop people from being able to look directly into your yard, but, I'd want the kids and all of that to stay on their side of the fence.
If I could through the chair, so this is the best picture that I have right now, but what you're looking at is essentially the shared property line with the access into hospice, which is also the parking lot for the other medical facility right there. So the access is kind of, you're seeing it, essentially, that picture on the right, you'd be standing in the access looking towards the property.
And that's where, through the chair, that's where the shipping containers were in the setbacks, maybe not easement setbacks.
Correct.
That's where I was going back to my notes. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, and to bring us back to where we are. Director Ford, you had a comment.
Ms. Johnson, is the backside of this parcel that gets accessed, that's not even on Timberfall Lane or Timberfall Court? That, you go through a parking lot to get there.
So this parcel right now accesses from Walford, so that is correct. Now, it does have frontage on that other road, and so in theory, they could add another access point, but right now, the main access is through Walford, and that, from a traffic standpoint, that makes much more sense once the site would be developed than to have some access off of the other area.
Yep, okay, thank you. I'm personally having a hard time conditioning this project based on occupancy of another parcel that's not actually even contiguous or adjacent to it. So I understand the concern, but I don't think we can condition this property, I mean, to address that.
We can't condition it anyway, according to you, we can only make a recommendation, right?
So we're getting caught a little bit on semantics here. So the board can't condition a rezone either. The board can incorporate requirements into the zoning, such as through a Q zone. If you want to add requirements to it, that's got to be done through the zoning. So your recommendation would be to take one Q zone off, add another Q zone back on. That's the only way that can be done.
Okay, so I have a motion, I believe, on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second the original motion.
Just to clarify, does the original motion add in? No.
Not according to.
Does not.
Just want to be clear.
Your original motion.
Okay, well, because there was discussion.
There was
Okay,
discussion, but we have a
perfect.
motion for the Wilford Zone Reclassification and General Plan Amendment to adopt a resolution which does all this stuff, right? It approves a project, essentially. So I have a motion and a second. Have any other discussion on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Mulder,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
No.
Commissioner McFarland,
Yes.
Commissioner Scavdall.
Yes,
Motion carries 3-1.
thank you. Okay. Move to item 3. Let's see, do we need, commissioners, need a break before I move on? Heavily rooted estates permit, and then All right, let's take a break. We'll come back at 1:45. And Director Ford, the next item on the agenda is the Heavenly Rooted Estate Special Permit for Short-Term Rental. Do we have a staff report, please?
Yeah, we'll have it up momentarily.
I don't believe, like, we didn't have a we didn't hear this at all last time. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so good evening, Commissioners. I'm Cliff Johnson again, and I'll be presenting this, which is the Heavenly Rooted Estate Special Permit for a Short-Term Rental in the Glendale area. This slide is showing you the location. It's just up the hill there on this private road off of Glendale Drive, kind of southeast of the Kernan Construction facility. This is showing the subject property. And this slide is showing the road that goes up to the subject property. You can actually see the subject property up there at the top. I would also encourage you to take note of the residence that is just in the forefront to the left. That is also a short-term rental. And so that property is actually zoned a little differently and was the first short-term rental permitted on this road, and so that was principally permitted. A special permit is required for this short-term rental because it is in an agricultural zone and it is not being used as a farm stay. And also because now this would be over 20% of the homes on this access road that would be short-term rentals. That's another limitation within the short-term rental ordinance, that they be limited to 20% without a special permit. Approval of this would be approximately 22% of the homes on the road being short-term rental. So we don't believe that that would be expected to have any detrimental impacts to the neighborhood relating to the density of short-term rentals on this road. This is the general plan designation, and so I just want to take note here that the intent of the short-term rental ordinance with the agricultural zoning was really to preserve agricultural working lands. And as you can see here, the general plan and the development pattern of the area, there really is no agriculture in this vicinity. And so we don't believe that there would be any impacts to agricultural working lands as a result of approval of this special permit. We have received a number of public comments, and a lot of these are stemming from the fact that there is a history here with this property. This property has been used in the past for wedding venues and was not permitted for that use, and was subject to a lot of complaints related to these things that you're seeing: noise, fire danger, traffic safety, lighting, the capacity of the septic system. And those staff did verify that those were serious issues that were occurring with the unpermitted wedding venue. There was a code enforcement action that occurred, and that wedding venue has now ceased. So but the property is seeking to be permitted for a short-term rental. This is a general site plan here, and so you can see there's a lot of facilities associated with the residents on this property: a bocce ball court and a basketball court. And one thing to take note of there is that the basketball court is lighted, and that those lights have been known to cause impacts to some of the neighbors late at night if people are playing on the basketball court. So in order to address a lot of the concerns that we have heard, we are proposing a number of conditions of approval, should the Planning Commission choose to approve this special permit. A noise sensor and data collection to be required if we receive any noise complaints. To remove or render inoperable the outdoor speaker system, to install a timed gate lock on the basketball, I guess also / tennis court, so that it could not be accessed by by guests after night hours. And again, to make that lighting unavailable to guests, and that before the property is actually rented out as a short-term rental, that county staff does an inspection and verifies that those things have occurred. The applicant has expressed a concern with some of the conditions, especially the one to install a timed gate lock on the court. They believe that that might be very difficult for them to do and also may have some liability issues, and I know they're prepared to speak to those concerns right now. But these conditions are found in the recommended conditions of approval. So with that, we do recommend that you find the project exempt from CEQA, make all the findings, and approve the special permit subject to those recommended conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Commissioner Mulder.
Through the chair to staff, in your presentation, you said the condition was the outdoor lighting was unavailable to guests, and I must have misread the report differently, because I thought it was, and it might have just been in that back and forth, I thought it was more that the lighting had to be off during those the hours, I think like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something like that.
Correct, so that the lighting would be not able to be utilized after those hours.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I have another question for you. Does the court lighting comply with our lighting ordinance?
Excellent question. We have not done a site inspection yet, and so we don't know exactly what those lights look like. That may be something that we could add a condition to ensure that when we go do the inspection, that they do comply with the lighting ordinance.
Yeah, that's probably something I would seek it as a minimum. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions of staff at this time before I open public hearing?
Just, this would limit the new structure to 1,200 square feet, is that correct?
No, the residence itself is, I don't have the exact square footage, but
No, I
it's
mean the new one that they're proposing. Are they proposing to build a new one?
No, I think that you may be thinking of the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, it's item 3, heavenly rooted estate. Any other questions? Yeah,
Can I just ask how the proposed maximum occupancy of 14, just how that number was arrived at?
That is actually the limitation in the short-term rental ordinance.
And to be clear, that's the maximum number of total visitors. I thought the occupancy was 7.
Sorry, that is correct, yes.
Yes. So the capacity is 2 times occupancy. Okay, so that's how we got to 14. Thank you.
I was on the right one, I just misunderstood. So they're turning the existing home into the short-term rental, but they could build another ADU if they wanted to, but they couldn't turn it into a short-term rental?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. With that, thank you. I'll open the public hearing, and if the applicant or their agent is here and would like to address the commission, now's the time to do so. On the phone? Okay. If you're online, I can't tell who's muted or unmuted here right now, so, or which ones.
Hi. Hi there.
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. I'm Danielle Weems. I'm the owner of the property. My husband and I are. And I'll just speak to the conditions that I had concern for regarding the basketball court and the lights. I feel like I have a couple of solid solutions that will work here. For the basketball court use, I plan to post a clear sign on the court door specifying that the basketball court may only be used from sunrise to sunset. I feel that this sign will reinforce the rules that guests have already agreed to when renting the house, making them clear and unavoidable. This sign will also state that failure to comply with these hours or the court rules will result in immediate termination of the guest's stay. In addition, our short-term rental rules will include a zero tolerance policy, which will prevent repeat violations. This approach ensures that the court is used responsibly and minimizes any potential disruption to the neighbors. As far as the sport court lights go, I was also under the impression that I read the condition as the light actually being removed. So I physically removing that light switch is not practical, but I think another solution is to add a clear statement also on that same sign indicating that the court lights are for emergency use only. And I will tape off the light switch so guests cannot easily just turn it on. And then also, you know, I would easily be able to identify if someone was improperly using it with, you know, someone coming up there and seeing that the tape's been removed, and I could easily source someone in violation. But people not having access to the lights at all is a liability concern, because it's really the only light source in that very dark part of our property. So for any medical emergency, I could give you 5 scenarios right now. Just someone left their keys and had to go grab them somewhere and fell, whatever it might be. Like for emergency purposes, I do feel like the lights need to be there, but I can definitely make them less enticing to use by taping it and making sure people know it's not permitted to use at all. I'm just going to tell people that the lights aren't to be turned on at all ever, because if the court can't be used after sunset, they don't need to have the lights on anyways. Together, these measures provide a clear, practical, and enforceable approach to the meeting the intent of the conditions and balancing neighborhood concerns, guest safety, and responsible use of the property. That's it.
Thank you. If anybody else would like to address the commission on this item, please approach the podium, or if you're online, raise your hand by pressing *9. Thank you, and you will each have 3 minutes.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. My name is Julie Jonte, and I am here to strongly voice my opposition to granting a special permit for a short-term rental at 95 Hilltop, McKinleyville. I have lived on Liscombe Hill Road for 35 years. Our property is directly across the creek from 95 Hilltop. And although this area is rural in nature, there are many neighbors surrounding Heavenly Rooted Estate, although a canopy of redwood trees gives the illusion of seclusion. The owners of Heavenly Rooted Estates have a 2-year history of loud, unregulated, unpermitted parties for profit. The parties were so loud that even inside our house we couldn't carry on conversations. I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I had. We had visitors from out of town cut their visit short due to the blasting music, drunken yelling and screaming, and shrieks throughout the night. Unfortunately, we had to call the sheriff numerous times, and I know our sheriffs are overworked and understaffed and have serious accidents and crimes to deal with. Calling about noisy parties is clearly a drain on valuable resources. The estate has an enormous sound system that just blasts music, and it was so loud we even got our own decibel reader. And I stood out in my yard, and it went over 80 in my yard. And because they have this and they're not willing to get rid of their sound system, I think these parties are going to continue. And I don't think I can deal with 2 more years of parties while you guys reevaluate this permit. I just think this can't happen. The owners of Heavenly Rooted Estate live on the East Coast, and they can't deal with day-to-day problems or noise issues or lighting issues. And I understand the conditions of approval for the special permit include rendering the sound system inoperable, and they're not willing to do that. Their refusal to compromise is an indication that they have no regard for the neighborhood or our county. They are also opposed to the dealing with the lighting, and I just think it's outrageous, and I just think that we should not give them a permit. Please don't let them do this. There are a lot of people around. This has been horrible. Thank you.
I'm Marty Skeeter. I've lived on Liscombe Hill Road for about 30 years, and this property is nearby. I would like to know if Danielle Weems is still watching this, and I'm sure she is what she's going to do, or what proposal she has for the hideous, loud sound system that is the heart of the problem. Please don't approve of this permit. The property is designed to be a party house. It's not really about hosting stays, as is mentioned in their proposal. The owners, they know about what their property does in our neighborhood, and they don't care. I don't know, they want to put up signage as part of the solution to their problem, but of course, when renters are intoxicated, they're not going to want to pay any attention to the signs. The owners don't care about what happens during any particular event. And the main takeaway here is that this application is for a short-term party house rental. Clearly, the owners and their agents have a history of ignoring neighborhood concerns. They had no respect for sheriffs or CHPs that were frequently summoned. They have shown little respect for our planning department, and when it tried to resolve issues. The owners live out of state, and they're not concerned. In view of the history of this property and the heavy reliance on self-regulation that this permit entails, it's inconceivable that a permit should be approved.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark Courtright, and for the past 52 years, I've lived at 212 Liscombe Hill Road. Our property is just across the creek from 95 Hilltop Lane, and the houses are about 600 feet apart. This property has been a nightmare for our neighborhood for years now, with unpermitted events on a huge scale. These STR applicants operated an unpermitted wedding party venue, which was built for just that use for many years, ruining almost every spring, summer, fall weekend with amplified music, PA system turned way up, DJs yelling, loud music, lights, and don't forget about the drunks. Retirement parties, weddings, loud music, huge events, you name it. Still, some of them went for 2 a.m. until the county finally got pressure on them and ended the noise at 10 o'clock. Just look at the sheriff record at the time, how many times they were called, as well as the Highway Patrol, not to mention the planning department calls we've made. Over 50 neighbors signed a petition to close it down. That's 50 neighbors. It's in your record there. It also took 2 years for the county to shut it down altogether, which clearly shows there's a problem with these owners in terms of noise and light control and trying to be good neighbors, if they have stated. I am here to support the special conditions that the county planning department is requesting, items 10 through 14, and recommend stronger noise monitoring, as this has been the hugest issue for us in the neighborhood. The history of this property and the applicant's past behavior demand special oversight and conditions in this case. I would also hope you include the conditions of approval that if any of the ongoing activities violates any requirement or condition of the permit, that the permit can be suspended by the planning director without prior notice of a hearing due to the applicant's history in the county and the neighborhood. The applicants live out of state and have shown very little control over the past, how they use the property, and that's the fear for us, complete lack of control of the SDR conditions and said rules. If history tells us anything, it's not about if they do not comply, it's going to be when they do not comply. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Miller, and I live on Liscombe Hill Road. I'm
about 600 feet across the creek from the applicant's property. And I want to, first of all, second everything the other speakers have said. I also submitted written comments, so they're in your packets. Hopefully, I trust that you've read those. So first I want to second, or the thought that the lighting, to make sure that the lighting agrees with the lighting ordinance, because that wasn't in my letter, I wanted to say that I agree with that, should abide by the lighting ordinance. It's just so close to other homes. And, you know, we're kind of in a dark area, which we like. We like the dark sky. And I especially want to thank the planning staff for all the work that they've done. Both John and Cliff here have worked on this for years now. And I think that they've created conditions of approval that are quite reasonable and fair to the applicants, considering their history of noncompliance and operation of an unpermitted event venue for 2 years. The conditions are definitely not an extreme overreach, as Mrs. Weems has stated in her previous letter. The conditions are fairly flexible, offering alternative ways to accomplish the desired results, which protect the surrounding neighbors from excessive lighting and noise. So if you do approve this permit, please leave all the conditions as proposed by the planning staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll provide the applicant 3 minutes if they want to respond to any of the comments that we've heard, but it's not necessary if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'll quickly speak. The sound system that they speak of has been inoperable since we've moved. So all the loud noise that they speak of was either a DJ, or the only other option that people had was a Bluetooth speaker that has been removed from the property. So that has been mitigated. And, you know, I can't really speak to all the things that they said because that's regarding a past situation that it doesn't involve a short-term permit. It's a very different scenario. But I just wanted to speak to, and I do actually have quite a few people. I have a sister-in-law right down the road. I have a house manager that is very responsive. So I do have people there. I have tons of family. I have lots of resources for people to be available to address things in a timely manner. And that's all.
Yes, we have a question from Commissioner Muldar, so if you could hang on for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Through the chair to the applicant. So I did hear in your original statement presentation that if the violations, the sign like lighting and noise was violated, it would result in immediate termination. You have zero tolerance. How would, if you had a guest that was using lighting and being loud, say 11 o'clock at night, how would that termination look? What would that termination look like?
I mean, I can't guarantee that someone would be available to like 4 in the morning, wake up and receive a phone call, but at least that morning, as soon as possible, for someone to go up to the property and tell them that they have to leave. And that would most likely be our house manager. And it would be very clearly written in the agreement on whatever sites that we choose to use and on the signage. So it would be kind of a, you know, and then if we had complications, I guess we would have to maybe call the sheriff if they wouldn't leave.
So let me restate what I was trying to ask. Say 11 p.m. at night, you have a guest there that's violating your light and noise rules, and you're going to terminate their stay immediately. How would you effectively do that, being as in your original presentation you said if you had a zero tolerance, if someone violated, you would terminate their stay. So I'm just trying to, if we grant this, I'm trying to ensure that those concerns can be mitigated.
Sorry, do you mind rewording that for me? I don't know why it's a little late for me, so maybe I'm It's a me thing, but do you mind rewording that one more time?
So hypothetical, you have a guest staying, it's 11 p.m. Pacific time. They're violating your noise and lighting ordinance rules for your site, your short-term stay. So you said you have a zero tolerance. How would you terminate their stay effective immediately?
Well, I guess for one, we would have to have a complaint of some sort for us to even know that someone was violating it. And then I or the house manager would have to notify them that they are in violation on the app, and usually those apps give you cell phones, so we would be calling those people and telling them you have been in violation and you are to pack up your things and leave.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So would you be, I didn't double check in this in conditions of approval, would you as the property owner or property manager be willing to give up your cell phone number or immediate contact so that way if a neighbor had a concern at 11 p.m. Pacific time, they could contact you so you would be able to mitigate the concern immediately?
Absolutely. I would give the number of the local person that would be able to handle it. But yeah, no, I'd definitely do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to close the public hearing and bring us back to commissioners. And staff, do we have any follow-up from some of the comments that we've heard? No. Okay. Commissioners, any?
I have one
Yes.
clarification. When we passed the short-term rental ordinance, this one wasn't grandfathered in?
No. This one was in an AG zone, and you recall that we modified the short-term rental ordinance sometime after it was adopted to allow smaller lots within the AG zone to be able to either be principally permitted or to go through the special permit process. That's what is going on here.
Commissioner Muldaur?
So, through the chair to staff, trying to reframe in my mind, is it correct that these last for 2 years at a time? Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, and then I don't remember the revocation process. So say hypothetically it was passed and then there was an ongoing problem. Is that something that would go before the Board of Supervisors, or is that the director?
It would be the board of supervisors. The director does have the ability to suspend, but
Okay.
not to revoke.
Can suspend immediately, so is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying, like I heard testimony, I'm trying to find a pathway forward that could possibly pass this, but also protect the neighborhood, so that way if there's continued patterns that's been shown before, that there is protections for those that live in the neighborhood. And then there's also a due process for the applicant, that it's, there would be a hearing before them if there was violations. So, thank you.
Yes.
I think just
Commissioner McFarland?
one thing that we could discuss as well, I know that the applicant said the sound system has been defunct or removed, and that they removed the Bluetooth speaker, but then obviously people can hire and bring in DJs or have their own music source. So I know the conditions say to remove the sound system, but I know we have the noise ordinance already, so I don't know if we need to add anything, but some sort of protection.
I would, thank you. I was going to ask a similar question, so I'm just going to maybe pile on a little bit. I was trying to read the conditions at the same time, and I'm not able to multitask, but it would seem that we need a condition to prevent any outside amplified music on the site. So, and I don't know what our condition is currently as it reads with respect to noise or music, but can we add a condition it to have
Absolutely, that
no
condition.
amplified music?
Yes.
Okay.
And you're talking
or
about
sound, PAs, microphones, speakers, no amplified music.
Or no
Listen,
No amplified music and no use of a PA.
yes, yeah. The other question I have comes back to the courtside lighting. I'm not quite understanding the safety concern. So I like the applicant's suggestion that we're only going to use a court from sunrise to sunset. I think the lights, the court lights, should be in a lockbox, locked off. And if they need safety lighting, there should be landscape lighting or pathway lighting or some sort of safety lighting provided to ensure the guest safety on site. But I don't think we need to rely on basketball court lighting for that. So I think you had it on a timer. I just say the switch it can be in a lockbox. If the owners are there, they want to turn the lights on, I guess they can. My only other option would be to just remove the court lighting, which definitely would solve the problem. So those are just kind of some suggestions around noise and light. And, you know, I'll be candid and being a little more onerous with respect to what some of the conditions might be based on the history of the property.
I agree with the lockbox, and the house manager can have the key or the code. So if there was some major medical emergency, the house manager would obviously be alerted anyway, and that can be shared.
Commissioner Moldar.
So for me, I read the testimony, heard the testimony, saw the thing. There was 50, I think it was 50 people signed the petition. So I do agree that it's past practice, just like any other type of project, past practice. If it's a little bit beyond pushing the boundaries, then we have to put a little more extra conditions to protect the other people within the community. So I would really want to make sure that, like I talked with the applicant, the cell phone number is a condition of approval that is available. I would like to see that number available to all 50 people that signed that petition and anyone that spoke in opposition to it. So that way, I would say that those are probably affected people. That's just where I'm trying to come from.
Right.
We're granting an entitlement. I don't know if it's considered an entitlement because it's a special permit, but we're granting something. But also we have to protect, so that way there's a pathway. We're hoping all the rules are followed, but if the rules aren't followed, we have a pathway to reel that back, I guess would be the right term. That's kind of where I'm at. I think I did hear testimony from the last two people that would be okay with the conditions of approval as long as they were met. The noise and light was the biggest one. Noise, it sounded like, was the biggest one. I don't know if we could require noise monitoring on the site. I mean, it seems a little bit more, but I mean, if I heard someone say that they had a decimal reader of 80 decibels in their yard, so that's kind of, it's loud.
Well, I think one of the things to be careful about is that some of that was related to some of the events, the wedding venue events that were going on, and there was amplified music going on in those events. And I think that if the commission were to disable the sound system, add a condition that there be no amplified music, no public address system used outdoors, that would take away the potential for there to be those noise levels created from the site.
That is logical. I would agree with that.
Through the chair, if I could add, there is a condition of approval currently recommended that states, following one or more noise complaints, the permit holder shall install noise sensors and provide recorded data to the planning and building department upon request. So I think, as Director Ford was saying, with the other conditions, those would probably give us a lot of tools.
Okay.
I have something too.
Okay, hold on. I had Commissioner
Quickly,
McFarland.
For staff and the director, what is the trigger that would allow the director to suspend the permit? Is it one noise violation? Is it at discretion?
If it were to be one event, it would have to be pretty egregious. I mean, something like there was a wedding venue being conducted there when it's clearly been discussed that that's not what's part of the permit here. Otherwise, it really is working with the applicant, the permit holder, to address complaints and to see if those can't be abated. And while that has not been satisfactory to the neighborhood, we tend to try to work with people first. And in this particular case, there is some history here, so it's a little difficult.
Can you put a cap on your effort, like 3 verified noise complaints from neighbors in which the director has tried to work with the applicant and have, resulted in a 4th or 2 to 3, some sort of thing like that, or is?
Well, you certainly could. If I were the director, I don't think I'd let it get to 3.
Okay. Commissioner O'Neill.
Remind me why we put the 20% limit, because I thought when we did the original ordinance, we were trying to preserve long-term rentals in our community and not wanting to have more than 20%. That was a percentage so that area wouldn't turn into a bunch of short-term rentals. Wasn't that the purpose of it, the 20%?
Well, there were 2 purposes in the short-term rental ordinance. Purpose number 1 is to absolutely preserve housing stock. But then the other consideration was protection of neighborhood character. And so that's the rationale for the limitation on the 20% on a street, is so that the street doesn't begin to migrate to transient housing and lose the integrity of the neighborhood.
Party houses, loud noises, all of that kind of
Right.
stuff, cars. So I think we kind of forgot that in all of the questions that, things that we've discussed tonight, is that by allowing a second short-term rental on that road, you are changing the character of the neighborhood, irregardless of the noises and sounds and all of that are currently happening. So.
So, so I see is, we do have an applicant that does have a history of some violations on the property with the unpermitted wedding venue. We have a community that's been harmed by those violations and is now sensitive to the use of the property and what's going to go on there in the future. And the group is, the neighborhoods sound like they're organized, so if I think there are future issues and complaints, and I would hope they're not just frivolous complaints, that they actually, if there are real issues and violations, that they'll make those complaints known to the commissioner and other authorities if they're, depending on what's going on. And I've heard us talk about some various conditions, and I just tried to list them. I think the court lights should be locked off. I think they should also comply with our lighting ordinance. So when we do the inspection, we'll make sure they comply with the lighting ordinance, even if they're not used while vacation tenants are there. They'll remove the speakers, which I think is already a condition. We will not allow amplified outdoor music or microphones. And if the applicant feels they need to have additional safety lighting, they'll add that as needed. Okay, so I'm not going to be responsible by not having court lighting, that we're going to be accused of some safety issue. I think that's the applicant's responsibility to address that with the absence of court lighting.
If I could ask for the commission to give us a little leeway on the condition relative to lighting compliance.
Yes.
That really has to be done at night.
Okay.
And so we're going to
understand.
have to send somebody out at night, and that should be done at the applicant's expense.
Okay. I understand that, but you will be able to tell during the day visit if they're shielded lights and if they're down lights or up lights or what they are. But if there is lighting, you're right. If there's lighting escaping the property, we won't know that without a site visit.
I have
at
not
night.
seen it, but it's been described to me as
Okay.
pretty impactful.
Okay. Well, the applicant could choose to remove the court lights, or they could pay for the county to inspect to make sure they comply with the lighting ordinance. In which case they're gonna, does that help you with that, Director Ford? Yes. Yep, okay.
And also the cell phone number available.
Yes. So we have the requirement for a good neighbor, the good neighbor policy and guide that does get distributed in the neighborhood, but maybe we need to make sure that gets distributed to this broader group of the petition signers. And that good neighbor guide does include phone numbers and contact information. Is that correct?
It does, that's correct. I was just kind of playing with the condition language, and I would just suggest that we also include that number be provided to all neighbors who request it.
There we go.
Yes, in addition, I was
In
just like
addition,
right
yeah.
off the bat, like
Yep.
the people that spoke like, hey, this is impacting me, but you know, there might have been others that were like, I'm scared, I've seen it before where someone's like, I'm scared to sign my name to that. I don't want the ramifications of it. But, you know, I don't want them to be impacted, potentially be impacted and not have the ability to. And I think the most important part of that condition is it needs to be somewhere that something or a number that can take complaints at, you know, that after 10 p.m. time frame in the event that there's a problem, because it seems like all the testimony, everything we've read, that's when the problem really is, after 10 p.m. when most people are wanting to go to sleep or relax in their homes and they're being disturbed by others. So I'd say that's, for me, that's where I'm coming from. To otherwise I feel we aren't doing our due diligence in hearing the public.
Okay.
I'd make that a motion, Chair.
Okay, so we have a motion. Director Ford, do you understand all the pieces and parts of the motion?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Do I have a second on the motion?
I feel like in the spirit of peacemaking, I will second the motion, but I say it with heartburn, given the history of the location and knowing what it's like to live with noisy neighbors. And so I do encourage the neighbors, if you have problems, you can obviously make those complaints, and, you know, our director will take them very seriously. So with that, I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Scavdall,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulder,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
No.
Commissioner McFarland.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you. Okay, next item, LCI parcel map subdivision in the Eureka area. Staff, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm Derek Wiles, and I'll be presenting the LCI parcel map subdivision on Union Street. The project is located in the Eureka area and takes access from Union Street. The The roughly 0.85 acre legal parcel is zoned R1, residential one family, with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and a general plan designation of RL, residential low density. The net size of the parcels, if the subdivision is approved, will equate to parcel 1 being 13,650 square feet, parcel 2, 6,600 square feet, and parcel 3, 6,900 square feet. The parcel is currently developed with a single-family residence, a garage, and a new single-family residence under construction, which will remain on proposed parcel 1. The parcels meet the minimum parcel size and building sites meet setbacks. This is a mock-up of how future development could look. There were some exception requests sent in. First, for road width, reducing to a 16-foot traveled way, road surface, delay paving, turnaround, eliminate turnaround at the end of the road, and right-of-way widths 30 feet, then 20 after 90-degree turn, which is further illustrated with this illustration. Going back to the last slide, the department supports the first two items, the road width and the road surface, and partially supports the last item. Supplemental information was submitted. Public Works conditions of approval as would be modified if the right-of-way and turnaround exception request are granted. And an additional condition of approval would need to be added if the right-of-way and turnaround exception request are not granted, which would be final map shall include a 30-foot right-of-way after the 90-degree turn and turnaround at the terminus of the access road, and shall accomplish this by increasing the right-of-way to both sides of the current shown right-of-way such that parcels 2 and 3 maintain a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. We recommend that the Planning Commission approve the project with the exception request for paving the first 50 feet of the access road, with the rest of the access road being completed at the time of development of the undeveloped parcels and to the design standards for the right-of-way width to allow a 30-foot width. Thank you, and staff is available for questions.
Yes, Commissioner O'Neill.
So with the width of the road and the way it turns around, that it's sufficient for fire trucks and garbage trucks to get in there now?
The Humboldt, probably not, actually. So the Humboldt Bay Fire District supported the exception request so that there wouldn't be a turnaround. I think that their opinion is that they can access the site without having to drive an apparatus down that access road, that they can get their hoses and everything back to all the development that would happen. One of the reasons why the Public Works Department is not supporting the exception to eliminate the requirement for a turnaround is they do believe that it would result in a situation where you'd have delivery drivers and things like that would have to back up all the way out the access road and then onto Union Street.
Thank you. Did you have a question? Could you put the site plan back up for my question? Just want to make sure I understand everything here. I don't want to ask this before the applicant speaks. Maybe they can address it. So could you put the one that had the colors on it so I can see there we go. So it's a 30-foot wide right-of-way down to the 90-degree bend. And this is what the applicant is proposing on this graphic?
Correct.
So they're proposing a 20-foot wide right-of-way then after the 90-degree bend, and Public Works is asking for that to be 30 feet?
That is correct.
And they're asking for a turnaround at the end?
Correct.
And that would consist of
it could
a
be
cul-de-sac or
or T.
A T.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So So, and I understand their concern, that they don't want people backing out onto the main road. Could the turnaround be placed at the 90-degree bend?
I mean, I don't see why not.
I'm asking this question in advance, so hopefully the applicant will answer that question. But one idea would be, and then if the turnaround was would Public Works still need the 30-foot right-of-way? Or if we had a turnaround at the 90-degree bend, would they be okay with the 20-foot right-of-way to get to the, I mean, it's really only going to the last parcel.
So the reason that Public Works has stated that they're not supporting the exception to reduce below 30 is that they feel that 20 is not enough to accommodate on-street parking and pedestrian movements as well as vehicles traveling. But as you noted, there's not going to be a whole lot of that because you're talking about really one to two.
You're going to go to the driveway of the first house and the property line.
Correct.
And then I guess there's 2 driveways at the end, though.
That is correct.
Right, so there's 3 driveways that actually come off of that dogleg piece, yeah, okay. All right, well, that's my question is, could we put the turnaround at the 90-degree bend? It might be more efficient for the applicant. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll open a public hearing, and applicant has, or their agent has 10 minutes.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Clark with Omsberg and Preston, agent for the owners who are present tonight, Leonard Lindstrom and Antonio De Leon. So we are asking that this project be approved per the revised conditions of approval penned by Public Works as of Monday, which I believe you were provided in email. And that would allow us to have well, first let me speak. We have, in the parcel, in figuring out the parcel configuration, we've been very mindful on laying it out in a way that maximizes the potential development in the future of the parent parcel. And this speaks to providing housing that's needed in the county and to allow perhaps in the future, again, that's a mock-up. The tentative map is a mock-up. We have no plans on any development on 2 and 3 at this moment. It's to allow, to give a vision of what future owners might be able to develop the parcels at. And can we go back to we do have.
Through the chair, they do have a brief presentation they were hoping to show.
That'd be fine,
if
please.
They're ready to bring that up.
Thank you. All right, so again, this is just an overview of where the parcel is located, and this is facing east, looking at the parcel from Union Street. And the access road that the existing driveway is proposed to be abandoned and to be re-landscaped to allow for more drainage. The new access road would be on the southern end of the parcel. That's what we're talking about right here. Right, and so we have a 60-foot width right there. We're asking for the 30-foot right-of-way at Union Street to run the length with a 20-foot travel way. And then turning at the turn, making a 20-foot easement with a 16-foot travel way. One of the reasons that Public Works wants the additional footage is development of sidewalks and internally. And they've conditioned it with a 5-foot travel path back to access the parcels. But that's one of the things that they're looking at for the future of the development. So just right up the street, literally right up the street from us, highlighted in turquoise, is the Cable subdivision that was already approved and it's already built out, but it was pre-existing. They have a northerly access road and a southerly access road. They were approved on the northerly access road that serves 6 parcels. or six structures. They were approved with a 16-foot, with a 20-foot easement, with a 16-foot travelway for 250 feet, with the remainder of a 12-foot travelway. The southerly access road was approved with for the width of the panhandle, and with a 16-foot travelway for the first 25 feet and a 12-foot travelway for the remainder. Next slide. So this is an overlay on their tentative map, showing that the blue is the right of way, the yellow over it is the travelway, and so it shows that the 20-foot with a 16-foot travelway. Next slide. And that's just kind of an overview on an aerial. Next slide. Of McKinleyville, there was a subdivision approved, similar situation here, and they've been granted a 20-foot easement with a 14.5-foot travelway. And that's serving three parcels. And they're using the driveways as their turnarounds. So again, what we're asking for is, if we were to take another 10 feet of easement on parcel 2, then that's coming into that's carving out of our net square footage of the lot, and it makes the potential development unfeasible. And so there are other areas where we can accommodate for, would trash pickup on the street? It is right now, right?
What's that?
Trash pickup?
Yes, yes.
But as far as delivery drivers, et cetera, the existing garage and shed are slated to come down, be demoed. There's areas where we could do a dedicated turnaround parking area in that area, and in the abandoned portion of the driveway down below, there's some potential for use for turnaround areas in that area. But to do a constructed turnaround T, in one of Public Works' first response, they gave us a conceptual drawing, and they had the T at the top of parcel 2, and it just cuts into the net footage of the lots for the easement. And next, so that's what I had. So so we're asking that the conditions of approval be approved per the Monday revisions, which will allow us to have, as it's demonstrated right there, and to remove the need for an actual structured turnaround. We can condition that with additional, making use of other areas within the property to accommodate those requirements. But,
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Leonard Lindstrom, one of the owners of the property, owner of LCI. As far as a turnaround goes in that area, at the L,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, and John might be able to answer this. Would that be considered a roadway? Because that would affect the setback of the house off the roadway, and I believe it has to be 20 feet everywhere to the face. Is that correct? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So my concern is that it would make the lot not usable. And so it would shrink the lot up so much that I don't believe we could get a big enough house on there. If, we have no plans at this time for lot 2 and 3. But I don't see how we can get a turnaround in there. And then it's the same thing if they wanted to do a 30-foot easement after the L, it would push a setback back again and shrink those lots up. And then do we lose the square footage out of that? It would just make it not feasible to build.
So you're concerned about the minimum lot, making sure you meet the minimum lot size?
Yes, it would shrink it up so much that it wouldn't even be feasible to do. And we have a lot of money in this already trying to
Yep.
get to where we're at, and it would be a big hardship on us to,
Understood.
okay.
I have a question for you. So
Yes, sir.
you're saying lots 2 and 3 are future. Are the other houses already existing, or are you proposing to build those?
There's one that's 1,100 square feet now,
That's the-
existing.
right.
That we have 2 and 2. And then behind it, we do have a permit pulled
For the house, it would be all the way at the end?
Yeah, the long
At
one.
the end
Yes,
of the
sir.
L?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Which if they put a turnaround in that area, I just want to comment on that. They did propose one in between the two houses also, the existing one and the new one. That also presents another setback issue in my eyes off a roadway. I mean, it seems like to me, and now all the money we've spent on the permit on that house and I mean, now I can't build it there. And so we're trying to do something that works for everybody, and there's just not going to be a whole lot of traffic, I don't think, on that roadway. Not too many houses, so.
Yeah, okay,
If
thank
that
you.
answers your question.
Yep, it does.
Yes, sir. Okay.
With the existing house becoming the ADU, once the new residence is built, the existing house will become the ADU.
I understood that. Okay, thank you. And does anybody else want to speak at this time? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment.
I have two questions, which might seem kind of elementary. My first is, can you not alleviate the need for the turnaround with a sign at the front of the road that says no turnaround? I guess, I mean, we definitely have areas in McKinleyville where, you know, you've got houses behind each other and there's only the one straight road. And then it's obviously driveways on either side, which if they're full, they're full. So
I think the Public Works concern, as I addressed it and, or understood it, was delivery vehicles, Amazon, whatever, UPS, they're going to come in to deliver at a house, and if there's no turnaround, they're going to back all the way up and out onto the street. And Public Works, we're trying to prevent that back on to the roadway. That's why they would prefer the vehicles turn around and exit the roadway, you know, forward versus backing out onto the main street.
I guess in McKinleyville, in one of the neighborhoods I lived in that has those sort of flag-like lots that have that, there's a mailbox at the front and that's where packages are delivered. So is there not something
Right.
like that that can be put in place?
So is that a question to staff? I can't answer that question. I don't know.
You know, they probably will have that kind of a mail delivery facility anyway. But when you have one of those, there's obviously lots of packages that don't fit in those, and the delivery vehicles still come directly to the house.
I guess what I'm getting hung up on is like we have recently approved areas where the driveways have been the turnaround, and then there are existing divisions that are relatively new, all those JLF construction subdivisions in McKinleyville that do have, I mean, I lived across the street from one of them, that do have that set up. And so, yeah, you're right, the delivery, Amazon or whatever, would go in and just back out. I mean, I never saw an accident, but I'm also,
So
it's not ideal.
If I could,
Yes.
rule of thumb for Public Works traffic engineers is, to the extent that you can avoid to have vehicles backing onto a public right-of-way, you try to do that.
could you pull the site plan back up one more time? Because there's still some things I just don't understand on here. So, while you're doing that, this street that goes down and makes a dogleg, is it proposed to extend through at some point in the future?
No, I believe it's got development all the way around it.
So why do we have public right-of-way all the way to the end of the lot?
I think it's proposed as a private street. It's not proposed as a public right-of-way.
Okay, so it's a private street with a 30-foot easement dedicated to who?
it will be between the owners of the property. So it's not going to be dedicated to anybody other than, you know, they get to share that right-of-way between.
So where's the public right-of-way end? Is it,
On Union,
Just Union
so
Street?
these are all private streets?
correct.
So one person can't stop another person from getting to their house.
No, I understand that. I'm trying to understand the buildings. Now, I'm going to come from there to the setback. What's the setback from?
The setback is typically from the edge of the easement, and I understand the concern with adding in a turnaround, but I think that can be done without making that part of the easement. At least a travelway easement. You probably want to set it aside, memorialize it somehow.
So, but, I'm going to come back to this, as a private road. It's private lanes and houses. Public Works wants it 30 feet wide for sidewalks. Are we requiring sidewalks on private roads?
Laura, if you don't mind pulling up the map, we do have that shared. That is according to the road standards that the county has. Whether it's private or public, it does need to meet a certain standard to support a subdivision. There can be exceptions, and so they're asking for an exception here, and that is a very common thing for people to ask for exceptions for those, especially on private roads. It is not, one thing I would probably offer here is that while the Public Works Department is not supporting those exceptions, I think you can read from their responses that are attached to the staff report that they're not opposing those exceptions with a whole lot of energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because, so, I'm just wondering if this isn't more like a shared driveway situation. So, yes, there's an easement over it because it's a shared driveway that these three homes are using. But typically a shared driveway doesn't have sidewalks. It is the sidewalk, right? So, so it might be semantics here, but I see that as a shared driveway. I still have the, on the road that comes in, there's still somewhat of a turnaround issue that we haven't quite addressed, and I don't know if there's enough room in the flag portion of the lot for part of that to be paved out for a turnaround. So if somebody were to back up onto that, I don't know how wide that frontage is there. I think you said it was 60 feet. Like, could we just pave a spot in there so that, you know, somebody might have to do a 3 or 4 point turn or whatever, but they could turn around there and have a shared, and then have a shared driveway. I would say from the 90-degree turn, it's a shared, it's kind of a, I would define it as a shared driveway. That's, yes.
Oops. That seems realistic, so Public Works' concern is mitigating any traffic from this subdivision entering Union in reverse. So if you just make a little bit of a pull-out right there against Union, for any vehicles to turn around to be flowing traffic the right way, that would mitigate the subdivision traffic. I would see that, so I think that's a great idea. I don't see how we can't support that.
Yeah. And your house is probably already designed, but if you flipped your driveways to the other end of the house, to your garage to the other side of the house, you wouldn't have to build as much road. Much driveway, I'm just saying. So, okay, just a thought. So, those are my comments on this, but I don't know some,
I could support that. I think what both of you said makes sense about having the turnaround on the wider portion closer to Union, and then considering the rest more or less a shared driveway.
it's probably not going to meet Public Works standard bulb out design, and it might not be able to go all the way to the property line, but I think if we worked with staff, we could figure out a way to turn around there.
I think that has some merit, and actually it would probably give delivery drivers, depending on the size of the truck, to just pull into that to begin with.
Correct.
And then get out, deliver
Yeah.
whatever packages they have, and
Yeah.
then back out and drive out that,
Yep. And the mail delivery or whatever, maybe the mailboxes, I don't know where they, if they'd be out of the street or they'd be at the beginning of the, what I'll call the driveway, but that could potentially work. So I would propose that we accept the applicant's exception request for the width of the right-of-way beyond the 90-degree turn and the width of the travel way, so the 16 feet and the 20 feet, and that we ask them to provide a turnout or a turnout of sorts along the 30-foot right-of-way.
And then obviously supportive of the two initial exemption requests that staff were also supportive of.
Yes.
Could they have added another driveway along that thinner L also for turning around? Because to back around that corner,
Yeah, the idea would be people wouldn't be going around the corner.
you think they'd stop ahead? of
Yeah.
you? Then you probably want to not have it on Union, but closer to the houses,
Yeah, it would be,
by the L before you get to the turn.
well, there's a house there.
I mean, before that house.
Before the property line L, right in that area, perhaps.
would be before where the parking spaces are located there.
Correct.
Because most people have their cars in the driveway, and you can't
Correct.
usually use a driveway sometimes.
No.
Well, should I make a motion then?
If you could.
So I will make a motion to approve the LCI parcel map subdivision with all four exemptions as proposed, with the minor change to add a paved parking turnaround area closer to Union. Or
Yes, yeah. On that stretch. So I have a motion? I'll second the motion. Sure.
And can I ask a clarifying question to
Yes.
staff? I just want to, with this exception request, that gives them the exception that they don't have to put in a sidewalk on a private driveway. Is that correct or incorrect?
That, I think you'd want to clarify that.
I just want, I guess.
Yes, that's the intent.
No sidewalk required with this exception request. Is that correct, motion makers?
I think that's fine on the private driveway.
Yeah, so on the 30-foot right-of-way with the 20-foot street section, they'd have a sidewalk. But once it gets to the dogleg, they wouldn't? Or what are we saying, no sidewalks necessary?
I was thinking it's 3 houses, no
Okay.
sidewalks required in the whole division, but
Right.
if you're trying to build
Nope.
affordable housing.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
that
fine with
seems
that.
fair, and that's how the existing ones in McKinleyville are when you have that
Yep,
dog leg. There's no, the sidewalks only in
on the main street.
Right.
Yes.
They'd have to have signage too, so that people didn't just start using that as a parking space for,
Yeah, it's a private street.
no,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the turnaround.
Turnaround.
Yeah, yeah, no parking.
No parking
In that turnaround.
Yeah, turnaround only.
with the, they could probably get a good partnership with a towing company to come
Put
yank
your
those.
boat over there.
Yeah. So, yes, so I would support that with no sidewalk requirement with your exception request.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Can we do a voice vote on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Thank you. You bet. And Alves removed to consent. So we have the public hearing for, yep, closing in on it. We had a staff report for Chan accessory dwelling unit. Brief staff report. Underlined brief.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Michael Kine, planner on this project. Just going to do a very brief presentation. So this is for a coastal development permit accessory dwelling unit at 3950 Wellington Street in Eureka. The applicants are Albert and Alexandria Chan. The property is just northeast of Redwood Acres in a small subdivision. On the left side is the site plan. Sorry, it's reverse of normal, so north is actually to the bottom. The building in question that will be removed is the one on the bottom on the right. It is going to be torn down, demoed, and replaced with a manufactured home. It will be shifted to the right, which is east, and then parking will be to the left side, which is west. Here is a picture from 2018. You can see the building in the back. It's 2 stories. That would be the one that will be removed. There are 2 other residents on the property. Next slide, thank you. This next slide is just another street view. The one on the left is facing east on Wellington, and the one on the right is facing west on Wellington. We noticed this project with a notice of intent to approve in August, but we received a request for hearing on August 13th. A neighbor was concerned that there will be no pedestrian sidewalks or other road infrastructure being required for the development of the ADU. However, California Government Code Section 66323 does not allow for us to put on any conditions that would require this type of infrastructure. So we recommend that you make all the required findings for this project and adopt the resolution approving PLN 19227 CUP. I am available for any questions you might have.
Questions? Commissioner Moldar?
Quick clarifying question. So my understanding is the reason this isn't on consent is because somebody asked it to be a hearing for a requirement that we're not legally allowed to require on a project.
Correct.
Thank you.
And they were made aware of that.
Okay, and then I also understand the housing unit to be torn down as a 2-story unit. The housing unit go back in there as a 1-story unit?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'm going to open the public hearing. I do see we have a couple people online. If anybody online would like to speak to this matter, please raise your hand by pressing *9. Well, yeah, either. There's no, I'm waiting, nobody's requested to speak. I don't see the applicant, and there's nobody in the room, or is the applicant?
There's nobody in the room.
All right.
The applicant lives out of town.
Okay, that's fine. Nobody's addressing the commission. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
I'm, as much as I love sidewalks, I am comfortable making a motion to approve as proposed if we are legally not allowed to add this kind of constraint, then I think our hands are tied regardless of how I feel about sidewalks.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I was saying I'm ready to make a motion, but
Okay.
I'll pause in case anyone has any other.
Commissioner O'Neill, anything?
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve public hearing item number 1, the Chan accessory dwelling unit, as proposed.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Item 8, the workshop. Do we need a motion to continue this workshop? No. We had no items pulled from consent. Report from planner? Anything, Director Ford?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. I did see the Coastal Commission approved our vacation?
The short-term rental
Short-term
ordinance
rental
was
ordinance?
approved by operation of law.
Okay.
They have a certain amount of time in which they're required to act on it.
Oh. So we won by default, huh?
Yep.
Say. Okay. Hey, Planning Commissioner discussion items. Anything? I do have something that I want to address, but I'll, okay. Let's see, a couple things. I think it's really important for us, we've been tight on having a quorum at a couple of meetings, and Laura does a great job every Friday before the meeting. Our agenda comes out to us by email Friday afternoon before meetings, and she always asks, will you be able to attend the meeting? I think we need to make a double down on our efforts to reply to those, because it's really hard for us to plan on meetings without knowing who's going to be here, if we have a quorum. Sometimes members do want to call in. We can't allow people, commissioners, to call in from outside if we don't have a quorum present in the room. So that creates a complication. So let's try to get back to Laura promptly on that request. I understand Fridays come and go, but by Monday afternoon, we should be able to know what's going on. The other thing I want to bring up is that as planning commissioners, we all read the guidelines, and there's a commitment to not miss more than 3 meetings in a row and more than 5 meetings in a year. Now, I certainly understand, and we can make exceptions for people that are on medical leave or have family leave, but I think commissioners need to endeavor to be here at the planning commission meetings to the extent they can. And if you can't be here in person, then you would schedule to call in. But again, you can't call in if we don't have a quorum present in the room. So, and I don't think we've had a hard line about enforcing these attendance rules. But we might have to if we can't consistently have a quorum here.
Yeah, we monitor them. We haven't had any egregious violations.
Yeah.
So
Good.
Haven't really reported that to the board.
Yeah, okay. I know we have some special circumstances, and that's certainly understandable, but that's why it makes it more important when we're down a person. It makes it even more important to check in to make sure you're going to be here or not, let people know so we know if we're going to have a quorum. So I don't know if I stole your thunder there. Well, hopefully people are watching, and I know, you're good about attendance, but.
You didn't steal my thunder.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I definitely didn't want to be here. I have way too many other commitments, but when I realized there wasn't going to be a quorum if I didn't show up at some time before 12 o'clock today, I had to adjust my day to make sure I was here, which is challenging, so I'm going to get out in front of it. October 16th, I will not be here. I'll be up in a courtroom on the 16th, and then I'm going to be driving back to Southern Humboldt for a meeting at 1 o'clock, and I'm not driving back up here to make a quorum. So I apologize if we don't have a quorum. I'm not going to do it because, yeah, I take the commitment seriously. I've missed out on a lot of things to be here, and once spring come out, I'll get in front of it. Once spring comes along, baseball season starts up, and I'll be watching my son play baseball. So my time is probably limited here.
All right. Well, if people know they can't be here for an extended period of time, they know what they need to do. So, I also drive, in the summertime, I live in Dinsmore, so, last meeting, I didn't roll back into my place until 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, so I know the drill, so. Okay, that's all I had. Next meeting is the 16th.
Yep.
All right, thank you.